Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into the shadows, deep underground, where light is a stranger, air is a suggestion, and the work never ends. You're about to become a coal miner in the 1800s Britain. Imagine waking before the sun even thinks of rising, pulling on the same filthy clothes and crawling from a straw mattress in the corner of a one-room shack that leaks when it rains and creaks when it doesn't. Your joints already ache, and you're only 12. This life is not for the faint-hearted, and you probably won't survive this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, drop your location and local time in the comments. I always love seeing where and when you're listening from. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You awaken to the smell of coal smoke, again. It's in your hair, your mouth, even your dreams. You slept in your work clothes, because what's the point of changing when everything you own smells like soot anyway? The single candle flickers. Your mother's back is already bent over a fire that hasn't taken, and your father is muttering about boots that never dry. His face, half hidden under a beard that used to be red, looks like carved slate. Outside it's pitch black. Not the poetic kind of black. This is real, solid darkness, the kind that presses against your skin and steals warmth. You shove a piece of bread into your mouth, maybe swipe a sliver of dripping if you're lucky, and your mum raps your knuckles for not chewing. You barely taste it anyway. Your belly growls. It always does. Your shift begins before most people have even blinked at a sunrise. You step outside and squelch into icy mud, the cold seeping through your boots like it's chasing your toes. All around, other boys and men are moving like ghosts. No talking, no laughter. Just the occasional cough and the dull clunk of boots on frostbitten wood. You reach the pit head, and even from the outside the shaft seems to exhale blackness. A wooden wheel creaks slowly above, rope winding endlessly into the abyss. You clutch your lunch tin, if you can call a hunk of boiled potato and a slice of bread a lunch, and line up with the others. Some miners chew tobacco, others mutter prayers. A few just stare. You rub your eyes and think maybe, just maybe, today won't be too bad. Then you remember that yesterday wasn't bad either. Until that boy from Southend slipped and cracked his skull on the rail spike. They pulled him out after dark. You saw his boot hanging by a tendon. The foreman shouts your name. You step forward. You grab the hemp rope. It's thick, rough and slick with something that probably isn't water. You hook your arms around it and brace yourself. There's no harness. Just hope, balance and the willingness to drop into a bottomless pit because the alternative is starvation. Down you go. At first your eyes strain, then they give up. You can't see anything, just a gradient of black to deeper black. The air turns wet and cold, like breathing through a soggy wool sock. You hear the wind whistle faintly around the shaft, but mostly it's the pulleys groaning, the rope hissing, and the beat of your heart like a funeral drum in your chest. Sometimes someone sings during the descent. Not today. Today is too cold for songs. You land hard, knees buckling slightly, the wood beneath your feet, slick and alive with 1,000 drips. Welcome to the bottom of the world, your home for the next 12 hours. A man with a lantern nods and jerks his head. No words, you follow. The tunnel ahead swallows the light instantly, so your eyes play tricks. Shapes seem to slither along the walls, shadows twitch, but you just keep walking. Don't slip, the man mutters. Floor's wet as sin. You trudge on. The air smells like damp, rust, mould, and something faintly sweet. Maybe rot, you can never tell. Historians still argue whether early British mines were more dangerous because of poor ventilation, or the way owners cut corners to boost production. Either way, you're already wheezing. At one bend you see the glowing eyes of a rat. At least, you hope it's a rat. It disappears into a crack, leaving behind a slick tail mark on the wall. Nice! By the time you reach your spot, just another shoulder-high tunnel barely wide enough to turn around in, your legs are shaking. Your job today, Drag empty coal carts up one side of the shaft and return them full, over and over. You're not allowed to rest unless someone dies. And they might. Miners around you start hacking at the coalface with picks, their lanterns swinging from rusted hooks. You notice one boy with shoes tied around his neck, not because he doesn't have any, but because shoes wear out faster than feet, and bare feet get better grip on the slick tunnel floors. That's just logic. You begin your first haul. The cart is wooden, wobbly, and has a wheel that always jams. You push, grunt, slip, and slam your shoulder into a wall. Somewhere above, a bell tolls. Not for time, but to signal a problem. You freeze. Everyone does. But the sound doesn't repeat, so the rhythm resumes. You push on, and on, and on. By mid-morning, which underground just feels like a less bad version of night, your back is soaked through. Your hands are already raw, and your head is pounding from the constant drip, drip, drip of water through the rock above. At one point, a chunk of coal lands inches from your foot. You don't even flinch. What's the point? You nibble your potato at noon. It tastes like coal. It always does. Somewhere in the dark, someone lets out a fart that echoes like thunder, and 3 boys laugh so hard one of them drops his lamp. There's a moment of panic before it's relit. Then the laughter returns. You join in. What else can you do? Back to work. 12 hours later, you emerge into the freezing air, blinking like a mole. The world feels foreign, too wide, too open, too alive. You drag yourself home. Your mother hands you a cracked bowl of stew. You eat in silence, eyes half closed. Your father coughs behind a newspaper. Your little sister tries to braid your hair, but gives up after the second coal knot. You collapse onto the mattress. Soot clings to your nose hairs. Your knees creak like old doors. Somewhere outside, a church bell chimes once. You'll hear it again in 6 hours. The rope groans above your head, and down you go again. Another shift, another plunge into the belly of the earth. You don't flinch now. You've learned to relax your arms and bend your knees as the winch creaks and moans, lowering you like a crumb on a thread into a giant's throat. This descent feels different. The candlelight from above fades quicker today, swallowed sooner by the thick, swallowing black. It's not fear anymore. It's something stranger. Familiarity, comfort. That might be the worst part. The way the darkness feels like home. You reach the pit bottom and jump off the landing plank, landing with a wet splat. The air down here is already warm and heavy with coal dust. You suck in a breath and instantly regret it. It's like trying to inhale a fireplace. A man named Digger nods to you. He's called that because he once got buried waist deep in a cave-in and kept working. His face is a map of creases and coal smears. His left eye always half closed, like it's permanently squinting into shadow. Bit of slippage in the west tunnel, he mutters. Mind your boots. You nod, even though you have no idea what bit means. Slippage can mean anything from a few loose stones to an entire wall caving in. But you don't ask questions. Questions get you reassigned, and reassignment usually comes with fewer limbs. You make your way to the loading point, where men and boys are already filling carts with freshly hacked coal. Your job today isn't hauling, it's prepping the shaft for hoisting. That means managing the trapdoor, signalling with the bell, and checking ropes. Checking ropes sounds safe, until it isn't. The hoist system, powered by a steam engine up above, is the mine's mechanical heart. A massive iron wheel turns endlessly, dragging thick ropes over greasy pulleys. And it's loud. The clanking, grinding, and screeching never stops. It's like being inside a screaming clock. The ropes are soaked with oil and sweat. Your job is to walk the shaft edge. Yes, right there, on that narrow plank, and make sure the rope isn't fraying. If it snaps during a lift, the falling cart will hit the bottom like a meteor, and everything near it turns to paste, you included. So you inch along, fingers tracing the rope's texture. Smooth, coarse, good. Wait, what's that? You pause, squinting at a section of rope that feels oddly thin. You rub it between your fingers. Yep, definitely worn. You flag it with a strip of cloth. Whether anyone replaces it today, that's up to fate and the foreman's mood. While you're still checking, the steam pump coughs. Not literally, but it shudders in a way you've come to recognise. It's like an old man clearing his throat, loud, wet, and probably a sign of something about to fail. You glance up instinctively. Far above the chimney of the engine house belches a lazy plume of smoke. That means the fireman's still feeding it coal. That's good. The pump itself is a marvel, one of the proud symbols of industrial Britain. This one's a Newcomen design, modified with Watt's improvements. It clanks away with brutal rhythm, sucking water out of the lower seams through iron pipes as thick as your torso. It's keeping you alive, but also making your life worse. See, before steam engines, mines couldn't go very deep. Flooding stopped them. But now the engine drinks the floodwater, letting the tunnels dig downward and outward for miles. Great for the owners, bad for your knees. You climb a short ladder to the signal platform, where a cord hangs next to a rusted bell. This is your only way to talk to the surface. 1 pull means raise the empty cart. 2 means send it back full. 3 means someone's hurt or worse. You test it. Ding. Good. Then out of nowhere, a blast of hot air rushes past your face. You flinch and turn, eyes wide. Another puff follows. Someone's venting steam, probably testing a new valve. But the timing? Suspicious. You decide to take a quick walk along the shaft edge, just to be sure. You grab a lantern and head toward the auxiliary shaft. This one's narrower, lined with wood and prone to swelling. And you hate it. The air here is different, thicker, warmer. Your shirt sticks to your back, and the lantern light flickers like it's struggling to breathe. That's when it hits you. A faint hissing, like a snake caught under floorboards. You freeze, hiss! You lift the lantern, nothing. Just walls, blackened stone, and timber bracing sagging like old bones. Then you spot it. Tiny bubbles on the shaft wall. Wet patches glisten where there shouldn't be water. That's gas. You back away slowly, not even daring to whisper. That hiss could mean fire damp, methane. And methane doesn't like company, especially naked flames. You keep your lantern low and retreat until the air cools. Back at the signal platform, you find Digger waiting. "Smell that?" he asks. You nod. "North shaft." He sighs, scratches his beard. "Better tell him up top." So you pull the bell 3 times. Above, that means trouble. You and Digger start waving people back. No shouting, just firm hand signals. Everyone understands. Nobody wants to die screaming. The work stops, and for a moment, the mine is quiet, almost peaceful. Then the foreman arrives. He's not pleased. "Evacuate," he growls. "For what? A breeze?" You gesture toward your lantern. The flame is small, yellow, and struggling. Classic sign. But he just mutters something about soft-nosed boys and stomps off. Still, the men take a break. Even the bravest know the mine has moods, and when it breathes hot, you listen. Historians still argue whether early safety practices were born of genuine concern or fear of mass lawsuits, though back then, legal consequences were as rare as a day off. You sit on a crate and watch the steam coil out of the shaft above. It's oddly beautiful, like smoke signals from another world. And you realise, this engine, this great wheezing beast has changed everything. Without it, you'd be farming turnips or starving on the moors. With it, you're alive, barely. And it's only Tuesday. A boy your age walks by with a smeared face and a toothy grin. "Bet you a halfpenny we all blow up before payday," he jokes. You smirk. "Deal, but I'm not paying if I win." "Course not," he says. "You'll be a smear on the wall." You both laugh. Because it's funny, and because the alternative is screaming. You're 10 years old, but your back feels 50. And your job? Pitboy. Which is a nice way of saying human mule who spends 12 hours underground doing a job designed for something with stronger legs and fewer opinions. Today starts the same way as always. You crawl into your assigned tunnel, barely high enough to sit in. It's called a board, but there's no wood involved. Just a jagged crevice in the coal seam that someone has decided is big enough to work in. Spoiler alert, it isn't. You drag your candle-topped hat low, shuffle forward on hands and knees, and get ready to haul. Your task is to move a corf, a small wheeled cart, full of freshly mined coal from the face to the main tunnel, where a bigger boy, or sometimes a pit pony, will drag it to the shaft. This would be easier if the corf had decent wheels, or if the floor wasn't soaked with brackish water, or if the tunnel didn't feel like it was actively shrinking. But sure, let's pretend this is manageable. You've tied a rope around your waist, attached to the front of the cart. You lean forward and begin the crawl, dragging it behind you. Within the first 5 seconds, your knees scream, your elbows jab rock, and your head smacks a wooden beam, left just low enough to cause personality changes. You mutter something under your breath that your mother would smack you for. The tunnel is dark, of course. Your candle barely illuminates your own fingertips. But it's not the darkness that gets to you. It's the things that move in the dark. Rats, mostly. Big ones. Bold ones. You saw one yesterday with part of someone's sandwich in its mouth. You're not sure whether to be horrified or jealous, and once, just once, you swear you saw something bigger. Something with gleaming eyes that didn't blink. Of course, no one believes you. But sometimes, when it gets too quiet, you hear breathing. Could just be your own, or not. You inch along the tunnel, knees scraping the floor, cart rumbling softly behind you. Your lungs sting. The air here is thicker than usual, like someone tried to bottle steam and forgot to add a vent. Halfway through your second haul, you meet another boy coming the other way. His face is a mosaic of coal dust and snot. You nod. He nods. No one speaks. You don't waste words underground. As you round the bend toward the main haulage way, your candle flickers. Then flutters. You stop. So does your breathing. Flicker once, fine. Flicker twice, worry. Flicker 3 times, run. Your candle steadies. You exhale, long and slow, trying not to sound too relieved. Probably just damp air. Probably. You unload your cart and begin your return crawl. This is the worst part. At least when you're dragging coal, you can pretend you're moving forward. Going back? That's just starting over. As you crawl, you notice a smell. Not the usual old socks and fireplace aroma, but something sharper, metallic, tangy. You follow it, around a corner and find a smear on the wall. Fresh blood, deep red, slowly mixing with coal dust to form a kind of grim paste. You pause. A sliver of panic starts in your gut. Then a voice behind you. He slipped. You turn to see an older lad, maybe 14, holding his arm at a weird angle. His shoulders hunched, his face pale. No bone poked through, he says, like that's a win. Just a twist. You nod and help him hobble toward the main passage, where someone will probably wrap his arm in old cloth and tell him to walk it off. There are no doctors down here. Not unless someone dies, and even then, it's mostly to identify which mangled bit belonged to who. Historians still argue whether the average miner boy was stronger than his modern-day counterpart, or just more used to pain. Given that you're currently walking with knees so scraped they feel like sandpaper, you're guessing both. By midday, your stomach starts gnawing at itself. Lunchtime. You reach into your tin and pull out a slice of cold turnip and bread, so dry it could double as a roof tile. You chew, slowly, carefully. Because coal dust settles on everything, and one bad bite will crack your tooth like a walnut. Still, it's food, and you're lucky to have it. You think of your little sister back home. She wanted to come with you this morning, just to see the mine. She's 6, still thinks the black on your face is adventure dirt. You didn't correct her. After lunch, it's back to the crawl. More coal, more tunnels, more jokes whispered in the dark. Oi, heard the boss is hiring girls next, someone says. Wants someone who'll cry louder when the roof caves in. Another boy chuckles. At least they'll smell better. You laugh. Not because it's funny, but because the idea of smelling anything but coal is absurdly exotic. A warm bath, fresh bread, soap, you might as well dream of unicorns. Then without warning, boom. A dull thud shakes the tunnel. Dust falls like snow. Silence follows. You freeze. Everyone does. Your candle flutters. Another boom, this time farther away. Someone yells, "It's the east wall, collapse!" Now comes the part where you don't run. Running stirs dust, uses oxygen, and usually gets you killed. So you wait, listen. The ground settles, the shouting fades. Eventually, someone calls out, "False alarm!" Just a cave in near the old shaft. You exhale. Your heart finally starts again. You finish your last haul of the day and drag yourself back to the surface, joints screaming, ears ringing. The light hits your eyes like betrayal. You squint all the way home. Your mum greets you with a basin of water and a rag that used to be white. She scrubs your face, tongue clicking in disapproval. "Look at these knees," she mutters. "You'll catch rot in those cuts." You want to tell her rot isn't even in your top 5 worries, but you don't. You eat your supper in silence, lie down in your corner, and pull the blanket over your head. The darkness is familiar, but it still isn't kind. You wake to the sound of the pit wheel groaning. Again, even in your dreams, that creaking rhythm haunts you. It's the voice of the mine, always hungry, always turning, never silent. Your knees are scabbed over from yesterday's haul. Your shoulders ache like they've been chewed on by wolves, but there's no time for rest. Today, you're reassigned to the hoist team. That means working near the steam engine, the pride and terror of the mine. Now don't get excited, you're not operating it. You're not even touching it. You're the one who checks that cart's latch properly, yells signals up the shaft, and shoves jammed wagons away from the lift platform with your foot. Because apparently, your limbs are worth less than a bent wheel. You trudge across the platform to the engine house, where the beast lives. And beast is the only word that fits. This machine is the size of a barn, all pistons and flywheels and hissing iron lungs. It beats like a massive heart, sucking coal smoke and coughing out steam like an angry dragon chained to its purpose. Inside, the engine master, a wiry man with goggles permanently etched into his forehead, glances at you. "You don't touch anything, got it?" he barks over the roar. "If it hisses, move. If it shakes, run." "Right," you say, already regretting your life choices. You stand by the loading shaft. When a cart reaches the bottom, you signal with a lever, then help guide it onto the lift. The rope stretches, creaks, and begins to pull. Slowly, the cart rises, wobbling a little, shedding droplets of dirty water like a wet dog. Above, the surface team clears the cart and lowers the next empty one. This is the rhythm of the day. Load, lift, unload, repeat, for 12 hours. You zone out after a while. The heat from the engine warms your skin, even in the drafty shaft chamber. You can't hear anything over the hiss and bang of pistons, which might be a blessing. No cries, no whistles, just steam and iron. Until something clangs. Your head jerks up. A small metal pin has bounced across the platform, followed by a spray of boiling steam from a junction pipe. The gasket's blown. The engine master shouts something that sounds like "cut pressure," but honestly, it could also be "kiss pressure goodbye." Either way, he dives for a lever. The pipe shrieks. You duck instinctively. The steam hisses past your head like a banshee. Just a few degrees closer, and you'd be wearing second-degree burns like a badge of honour. Eventually, the pressure dies. The leak is patched, and you're still alive, which in mining terms is considered an excellent day. As you help reset the platform, another boy nearby nudges you. He's maybe 12, with one eye permanently swollen shut from some long-forgotten accident. "Know what that was?" he asks with a grin. "Steam blowout?" You guess. "Nah," he says, "that was the machine warning you. Wants a day off." You laugh, because it's either that or cry. The engine was installed just a few years ago. It's a Watt design, an improvement, as they say, on the original Newcomen. Before that, miners used bucket chains or manual windlasses. Took forever to raise a load. And don't even get started on flooding. Without a pump, water would creep in and drown everything below the first level. The steam engine changed all that. Now the mine stretches deeper, longer, with dozens of branches clawing through the hills like veins. The deeper you go, the hotter it gets. More gas, more danger, more coal, but progress, right? Historians still argue whether these machines were liberators or just new forms of oppression. Sure, they made coal more accessible, helped power cities, and even made the owners rich enough to own actual glass windows. But for you, it just meant more shafts, more shifts, more suffering. And the worst part? It's still not enough. Move faster, the overseer grunts. He's a heavy-set man, with hands like bricks and the patience of a snapping turtle. 2 carts backed up on the incline. You rush to unjam the latch. It's stuck, tilted sideways. You kick it, twice, it shifts. Unfortunately, so does your balance. You slip. Only your boot goes over the shaft edge, but for a second, it's like the world tilts. Your stomach lurches, your heart stutters. The rope zings past your leg close enough to singe hair. Then hands grab your arms. Another boy, strong and silent, pulls you back. Careful, he mutters. Shaft eats fast. You sit for a moment, shaking, staring at the cart wobbling far below. Later, during your lunch break, you huddle in a side tunnel with a few others. Someone passes a cold biscuit. Another lad unwraps a potato with a look of pure reverence. You know, he says through a mouthful, my uncle lost 3 fingers to one of those pressure valves. Why was his hand near it, you ask. Because he was stupid, someone else says, deadpan. You laugh again. It's a bleak sound, but it's real. Someone brings up a rumour. There's talk of a new system being tested in Wales. Something about iron safety cages and braking systems. No more free-hanging rope lifts. It's supposed to prevent falls. Sure, someone scoffs. They'll install that right after they give us golden chamber pots and personal cooks. You snort biscuit crumbs. Back at your post, the engine resumes its endless groaning. You begin counting strokes just to pass the time. Every 80 seconds, it completes a full pump. That's about 900 strokes per shift. That's a lot of coal lifted. A lot of risk. By shift's end, your ears ring. The noise doesn't stop when you leave. It follows you, a phantom hiss echoing in your skull. You walk home with a limp you don't remember earning. Your mother barely glances at you. She's peeling turnips, her face carved into exhaustion. Your father's already asleep in the corner chair, a newspaper draped across his lap. You see the headline, Coal output surpasses record, nation prospers. You smirk. They mean their nation, not yours. You eat, you cough, you collapse onto your mattress, and you dream of pistons. You know something's wrong the moment your candle trembles. Not the gentle flicker from a breeze, but a nervous, jittery flutter, as if it senses what you can't see. You hold your breath and stare at the flame. It dances, shrinks, flares. Then, poof, it vanishes. Total darkness, you freeze. Around you, everything is still, except for the soft ticking of distant water dripping from stone. And then your nose catches it. A faint, sickly, sweet smell. Like rotten eggs, boiled in metal. Gas. The others have warned you about it. Fire damp, they call it. Methane. Invisible, odourless sometimes. But every now and then, you get that odd metallic whiff just before things go bad. You fumble for your striker, trying to relight the candle, but you stop halfway. Because if it is fire damp in the tunnel, one spark could turn the whole seam into a furnace. So instead, you sit. You wait. You hope the others smell it too. A boy down the tunnel calls out, voice barely above a whisper. Candle died. Another echoes, mine too. You crawl slowly toward them, hand grazing the wall. Someone else coughs. You hear a rat skitter. Then silence again. 10 boys, maybe more, huddled in the dark like ants on the edge of boiling water. and somewhere in that dark, the threat of a single spark. You whisper, "Don't light anything." A minute later, someone arrives with a Davy lamp, a miracle of its time, really. Invented in 1815 by Sir Humphrey Davy, it's a game changer for miners. The flame is encased in fine gauze, which keeps it from igniting any methane in the surrounding air. Brilliant stuff, assuming you actually have one. The boy holding it walks like he's cradling a baby bird. Everyone watches his face. The flame inside the lamp glows blue. That means gas. You feel your insides twist. Everyone does. Blue equals danger. Yellow equals safe. No flame, you're probably already dead. So you all sit still, barely breathing, waiting. Someone starts a low hum. A song without lyrics, more like a shared heartbeat. It helps. Historians still argue whether the Davy lamp saved more lives than it cost, because as safe as it seemed, it gave mine owners an excuse to drive tunnels deeper into ever more dangerous seams. And men got braver with the lamps, sometimes too brave. After what feels like forever, the boy checks the lamp again. Blue, then flickering, then yellow. Relief spreads like a silent prayer. You light your candle and continue. No one says much, a few coughs, one nervous laugh, but mostly it's the shuffle of boots and the groan of wheels echoing down damp stone. Later, during your break, you gather near the mule pens, not for the company, though the mules are decent conversationalists, but because it's one of the only places with airflow. The animals breathe better than you do. You eat your stale bread. Crunch. You pause. Another crunch. That's not crust. You spit out a flake of black grit. Coal dust in everything, someone mutters. No wonder my teeth fall out at 12, you reply. The older boys snort. One shows off a gap where 3 molars used to be. Gave 'em to a rat, he grins. As the day drags on, you hear a story about a miner in a nearby colliery who lit a pipe underground. Swear it's true, the teller says, eyes wide. He lit it, smiled, and the whole tunnel went up like Guy Fawkes Day. Didn't find enough of him to fill a bucket. You wince. Some say those stories are exaggerated. Others believe them down to the ashes. All you know is this. You've never seen anyone smoke underground, and you never want to. Later, you pass a sign scratched into a wooden beam. No flame without lamp. Not that signs stop anyone, but it's a nice gesture. Near the end of your shift, you help guide a new lad. Fresh, maybe 9. Still plump-faced and blinking too much. He whispers, "Is it true there's ghosts down here?" You smirk. Only if they didn't follow the rules. He doesn't laugh, just nods solemnly. The truth is, some of the old-timers do talk about ghosts. Men in torn shirts, seen crawling down sealed shafts, disembodied coughing from empty tunnels. One guy swears he heard a voice say, "Duck," just before a beam fell inches from his skull. You chalk most of it up to gas hallucinations and lack of sleep. But still, when your candle flickers for no reason, you mutter a thank you, just in case. As the hoist takes you up at shift's end, you watch the walls slide past like greasy ink. The wind picks up as you rise. Your eyes squint against the daylight. Your nose wrinkles at the strange smell of clean air. Once topside, you blink in disbelief at the sun. So bright, so open. You can see clouds, trees, birds even. The surface feels fake. You trudge home with your boots leaving soot prints on the cobbles. People pass you with pinched noses. You smell like firewood, oil, and damp wool. Always do. At home, your mother wipes your face with vinegar and water. "You smell like you slept inside a chimney," she says. You kind of did. Your sister tries to braid your hair again. This time she gets halfway before giving up. You eat turnip stew again. You scrape the bowl clean. You cough hard. Something black hits the spoon. Coal dust, or worse? You don't know. You don't ask. You lie down on your straw pallet. Your arms feel like sacks of flour. Your lungs ache, and in your ear, you swear you still hear the hissing of gas. It's noon and your stomach's rumbling, but it's not the cheerful kind of hungry. It's the hollow, angry ache that comes from days of eating the same three things in an endless loop: bread, turnip, and more bread. Sometimes there's dripping if your family's been lucky. But down here, lunch is more of a formality than a feast. You drop your pick and slide onto the damp tunnel floor. Your legs instantly soak through, but at this point, dry is a fantasy word. You reach for your lunch tin, colder contents, and open it with the resigned sigh of a child expecting disappointment. Inside, a greyish slice of bread with a smear of fat, one boiled potato that's been living in this tin since yesterday, and a pinch of salt wrapped in paper. You blink at it. Still better than last Tuesday, when your brother forgot the salt. The air down here doesn't just smell like coal, it tastes like it. You take a bite, and your teeth crunch unexpectedly. That's not the crust, that's coal dust. See, it's everywhere. In the cracks of your skin, on your lips, inside your nose, throat, eyes. When you chew, it sneaks in. Tiny flakes that ride the air and settle in your food. You've swallowed so much coal dust, you're half convinced you're becoming a walking seam. You wipe your mouth with your sleeve. That just smears more grit across your cheek. Oh well. Nearby, two boys play a slow-motion game of guess what this used to be, with the contents of someone's forgotten lunch. A lump of something vaguely meat-coloured, wrapped in cloth that's gone stiff with age. It could be mutton. Could be boot leather? Hard to say. They sniff it and recoil. One says, still better than Matty's mum's pie. Laughter erupts, low and tired, but real. You lean back against the tunnel wall and close your eyes. But not too long. Too long. And you'll get what they call tunnel sleep. The kind that sneaks up on you mid-shift and doesn't care if your head ends up in a puddle. Plus, there are rats. Speaking of which, one scurries past your boot now, dragging a torn bread crust with all the pride of a pirate finding treasure. You nod respectfully. That crust's bigger than the rat. Your shift partner mutters, "Reckon they eat better than we do." You nod, and they don't have to dig it. There's a strange kind of gallows humour that grows in the tunnels. You joke about everything, especially the worst things. It's the only way to make the coal feel lighter. As you sip water from your tin cup, which now tastes faintly of rust, coal, and possibly rat footprints, you hear someone further down the shaft grumble, "Bleeding aristocrats eat 6 meals a day." Someone else adds, "Saw a picture once, table bigger than my house, candles and everything." "Candles," another voice scoffs. "We use ours for not dying. They use theirs to make pudding look dramatic." Historians still argue whether lower-class diets during the Industrial Revolution were borderline starvation or simply limited. Either way, the word variety doesn't exist in your world. If it didn't grow underground or keep for a week in a cupboard, you didn't eat it. Occasionally, there's cheese. Once you saw a real orange, and it was passed around like a royal artefact. Someone once claimed to have eaten beef on a Sunday roast. You still think he made it up. After lunch, if we can keep calling it that, you get back to work. Your pick is heavier now, not because it's changed, but because you have. Fatigue soaks into your bones like the tunnel damp. Every swing of the pick sends jolts up your arm. Every breath rasps slightly. You can feel the grit in your throat now. Not just from lunch, this is deeper. Your cough is drier today, scratchier. You don't tell anyone. At one point, your hand slips and your knuckles crack hard against the coal face. You hiss and pull back. A layer of skin is missing, and the coal left behind looks almost smug. You wrap it in cloth and keep going. Nearby, an older man leans against a post, breathing hard. His beard is grey with soot. He pops a biscuit into his mouth, then grimaces. "Grit in it," he mutters. "You sure it's grit and not just a biscuit?" you ask. He snorts. "Might be both." He then produces a lump of sugar from his pocket and carefully, reverently, dips it in his tea, if you can call that watery brown fluid tea. It's more the idea of tea, but the sugar makes it gold. You stare at it like it's magic. He notices and offers you the lump. Just like that. You hesitate. But then you take it. It's gritty, it's half melted. It's the best thing you've tasted in weeks. You want to cry a little. Instead, you suck it like a king savouring the last jewel in his crown. Sweetness, real sweetness, is so rare it's practically sacred. You say nothing. He says nothing. It's understood. Later, as you make your final trip along the tunnel, pushing a nearly full cart, your stomach cramps. You bend forward, wince, breathe through it. You haven't eaten enough. You never eat enough. But you'll be home soon, and maybe, just maybe, your mum will have saved the heel of the bread. The part with the most crust. You can chew on that and dream about cheese. Real cheese. Not the chalky maybe curd stuff that sometimes shows up at the grocer. As you near the lift, someone shouts up the shaft, "Cooks above got stew." Everyone perks up. False alarm. It's just the engine house stew. Mostly onions and wishful thinking. Still you lick your lips, and when the hoist drags you back into the fading light, your lunch long gone, your hands blistered, and your tongue still remembering that single grainy sugar lump. You feel lucky, because you ate today. You don't know who first thought to blindfold a horse and march it into the earth, but that person had a twisted kind of genius. Today's shift begins not with a pick or a shovel, but with a rein in your hand and a snorting, stubborn pit pony on the other end of it. Her name is Dolly. She's about 4 feet tall, barrel-chested, and so covered in grime she looks carved from charcoal. She also hates you. You can't blame her. Once above ground, Dolly lived in a green field and knew the feeling of sun on her flanks. But now she lives underground, full time. Like you, she's become part of the mine, another moving cog in the coal machine. You click your tongue and tug the rope. Dolly sighs, stamps once, and lumbers forward, pulling the cart like it's filled with feathers instead of coal. These ponies are strong. You've seen one drag 2 full carts through a tunnel bend so tight it might as well have been a knot. Some folks call them beasts of burden. Down here, they're co-workers, and, depending on who you ask, more agreeable than the humans. "Watch her step," an older boy warns you. "She don't like puddles." "She lives in puddles," you mutter. "Exactly." You lead Dolly through the main drift, her hooves clacking steadily against the stone. She knows the path better than you do, probably better than any of the men, to be honest. She's walked it hundreds of times. You just follow and keep her calm. She twitches at sudden noises. You learn to speak low, pat her neck now and then, and sing little nonsense songs under your breath. Nothing scares a horse like sudden silence. Well, that and roof collapses, which is why, as you turn a corner and the wall creaks like an old ship, both you and Dolly freeze, just a beam shifting, hopefully. You whistle a soft, slow tune and tug the rope. Dolly resumes. The thing about pit ponies is they don't complain. They don't swear or cough up black mucus or gamble away their wages in the alehouse. But that doesn't mean they're fine. Dolly's got scars on her flanks from old harness rubs. Her eyes, once wide and shining, now squint in the gloom. There's no grass, no sky, and she hasn't seen sunlight in 3 years. You heard a story once that when a pony dies down here, they don't even bring her up. They just bury her in a sealed shaft and move on. No ceremony. No stable boy with a tear in his eye. Just coal, cart, corpse, dirt. Cheerful thought, you mutter aloud. Talking to yourself now, comes a voice behind you. You turn. It's Alfie, a tall lad with ears that flap like sailcloth when he walks. "Practising speeches for Parliament," you grin. He smirks. "Right, you'll be Prime Minister by Thursday." You both laugh, the sound bouncing strangely off the tunnel walls. As you wait for the next loading crew to fill Dolly's cart, Alfie leans against the wall. "Ever seen a tunnel snake?" he asks casually. You blink. "A what?" He nods solemnly. "Long as your arm. No eyes, lives off the heat, feels you coming by your footsteps." You stare at him. "Don't worry," he says. "They only eat the slow ones." You shake your head. "That story's older than Dolly." Still, you glance down the tunnel behind you, just in case. Once the cart's loaded, Dolly begins the long pull back toward the main shaft. You walk beside her, hand on the reins, eyes flicking between her hooves and the tunnel's bracing beams. If one looks warped, you remember to steer her around it. If one creaks, you tighten your grip. If one snaps, well, you hope you're both quick. Historians still argue whether keeping animals underground for life was cruelty or simply necessity. Mine owners claimed it was efficient. Pitmen said it was inhumane. But no one asked the ponies, and they're the ones who spent 20 years in darkness. You pass a junction where the tunnel splits into two. One is the regular route, the other, less used, narrower, damper. Dolly refuses to go near it. She stops dead, ears back, eyes wide. You don't question her. Animals know things you can't see. You lead her the long way instead. Back at the shaft, the cart is hooked to the lift, and you unfasten Dolly's harness. She snorts, then lowers her head to nuzzle at the coal-dusted floor. You don't have an apple. You wish you did. Someone once smuggled one in for a pony named Bramble. The owner beat him with a stick when he found out. Ponies don't need fruit, he'd said. They need obedience. The boy didn't come back the next week, but neither did the owner's dog. You've always wondered about that. You scratch behind Dolly's ear before leading her to the tether post. She whinnies softly, just once, then settles in to doze. That's as close as she gets to a break. Your break is over too. You head back down the tunnel passing another team with a shaggy brown pony named Bess. She kicked a rat in half yesterday, her handler boasts. On purpose? Hard to say, but it was impressive. You laugh, then cough, then keep coughing. Your throat feels like sandpaper wrapped in soot. You cough into your sleeve, black. You pretend you didn't see it. At the end of your shift, you stop by Dolly's post. She's already half asleep, eyes drooping. You whisper, "You did good today." She flicks her ear. You start your climb to the surface. The hoist shakes as it lifts. Your boots leave prints like shadows on the planks. Tomorrow you'll be back down again. Dolly too, and the day after, and the day after that. You're both beasts of burden, just with different numbers of legs. By now you know that miners don't speak like the rest of the world. Not properly, not in polished grammar or Queen's English. Down here, the language is its own breed, rough, strange, and sometimes outright incomprehensible to outsiders. Get your trapper down the clecking level for that rolly busts its gut. You blink the first time someone says something like that to you. It takes months before you understand that what they actually meant was, send the doorboy down the lower level before the cart goes off the rails. The dialect is part survival, part defiance, and very much part of the culture. You remember being 6, overhearing your father call someone a lazy, doly mumper, and thinking it was a kind of bird. Turns out it was just a really creative insult. You filed it away for future use. Today, you're working near the stables again, and the talk is flying faster than the carts. A pair of older boys are swapping jokes while fitting a new wheel on a jammed corf. You hear about Bill's lamp, one says. Went out last night. Poor lad, says the other. Dark's bad, but silence is worse. What did he do? Started singing, loud as church bells. And lamp relit itself just to shut him up. They laugh. You laugh too because it's funny, but also because you get it. Down here, jokes are currency. They keep the fear away, or at least keep it waiting in the wings. The humour's not always pretty, it's rarely polite, but it's the glue that holds everyone together. Your shift leader, known only as Spanner, because he once threw one at a supervisor and missed, is particularly good at these coal pit quips. Why do ghosts refuse to haunt the mine, eh? He asks, walking past. Dunno, someone answers. Because it's already hell. Not wrong. Later, during break, someone breaks out a harmonica. It's battered, off-key, and sounds like it's been used as a hammer, but still, it sings. Slowly, a tune fills the shaft, something vaguely Irish, half mournful, half defiant. You tap your foot to the rhythm on instinct. Someone else hums. Another starts singing. Down in the pit where the shadows play, we cough through night, we work through day. You don't know all the words, but you catch the drift. These are miners' songs, born in shafts, passed down by calloused mouths, and coal-black lungs. They're not written down, they're not polished, but they stick in your head like dust in your clothes. Sometimes it's just a few lines shouted between carts. Give us bread, not holy rot. You can't eat grace when the stew pot's not. Poetry, maybe not, but it rhymes, and it's honest. Then there's the slang. The carts aren't carts, they're rollies. The boys who open and close trapdoors to ventilate the tunnels. Trappers. The lunchroom, if you can call it that, is the hollow. And when someone says the, black cough's caught him. You know what that means. There's also the unspoken language. A glance, a nod, a certain kind of silence. Down here, those speak louder than words. You learn when to shout and when to whisper. When a song helps, and when it'll get you yelled at. You're 12 when you first learn a joke filthy enough to make your dad laugh out loud at dinner. Your mum throws a rag at both of you. You never forget it. Why'd the collier bring a ladder to the chapel? Why? To get on God's good side before the roof gives out. You hear that one weekly, but there's another kind of story down here. Not just the funny ones, the quiet ones. Like the old man who never speaks but keeps a pebble in his pocket. Rubs it like a lucky charm. Never told anyone why. Or the boy who hums every time he's afraid. You start recognising the tune before the danger. Or the girl who used to sneak her father's pipe into the tunnels just to smell the tobacco. Said it reminded her of home. There's superstition too. Some refuse to whistle underground. It's said to summon the rock's attention. Others tap 3 times on the tunnel wall before entering. A ritual meant to wake the mine gently. Historians still argue whether this folklore was based in old pagan rituals or just miners' psychology. Either way, you find yourself knocking 3 times too, just to be safe. Once, during a shift delay, someone starts telling the story of the blind collier, a man said to have lost his sight in a blast, but kept working, navigating by touch and smell alone. They say he could feel the coals grain through his boots. Probably nonsense. But then again, you've seen weirder. Like the boy who could sleep upright in a tunnel beam and never fall. Or the man who survived a cave-in by drinking candle grease for 2 days. Or the girl who swore she saw her dead brother's shadow on the wall during a blackout, pointing toward the exit. Maybe the mine warps the mind. Or maybe it just makes you pay attention. You head back toward your post, swinging your lamp slightly. The song from earlier echoes down the shaft. Coal for the fire, bones for the bed. If the roof don't fall, we're not quite dead. Catchy. You hum it under your breath as you rejoin the line. Dolly the pony twitches an ear in recognition. She's heard it before too. You glance down at your hands. Blackened, scraped, cracked. No gloves today. Again. You grin to yourself and whisper. Still prettier than the supervisor's face. You hear a chuckle from behind a beam. The humour down here is survival. You share jokes like you share bread. Rarely and never wasted. There's a cage hanging in the corner of the shaft room. It's small metal and just big enough to hold one trembling yellow bird. The miners call him Lucky. You hope the name holds. Every morning, before the first cart goes down, and before the first pick strikes coal, someone checks Lucky. If he's fluttering, chirping, dancing around his perch, good. If he's still and quiet, everyone gets a little nervous. If he's on his back with his feet in the air, run. Today you arrive to see Lucky unusually quiet. He's breathing, but just barely. His feathers are puffed up, and his little chest rises too slowly for comfort. You and the others gather around. A low murmur runs through the group. Could be nerves, someone says, or gas. Too soon to tell. No one volunteers to go first. The canary, you see, is more than a bird. It's an alarm system with feathers. Miners learned long ago that these little creatures are incredibly sensitive to carbon monoxide and methane, gases that can seep into the tunnels without smell or warning. The moment the canary stops singing, something's wrong. Sometimes it dies before anyone realises it's time to leave. You walk past the cage with a sideways glance, trying not to let it get to you, but it does. Every single time. Down in the shaft, the air feels thick. Not warm, just heavy, like walking through pudding. You breathe in slowly, trying not to cough. The others are doing the same, all trying to convince themselves nothing's wrong. Then comes the silence. It's subtle. A strange hush falls over the tunnel, like the mine itself is holding its breath. No picks, no coughing, no jokes, just dripping water and the distant creak of a support beam. Then the canary's cage is rushed down the line. Lucky's out cold, slumped on his perch. Someone screams, "Gas!" That single word explodes like dynamite. Chaos erupts. You drop your tools. People shout. Men scramble. Some grab rags and cover their mouths. Others just bolt blindly down the passage. You grab a younger boy, Tommy, and drag him behind you. His eyes are wide, his lips already starting to turn pale. Breathe slow, you whisper, though your own lungs are screaming. Don't run too fast, keep low. The tunnel is a nightmare of noise and movement. Dolly rears in her stall, eyes rolling with terror. You hear carts clattering off rails as boys flee in every direction. You push forward, dodging beams and leaping over rails, the air getting worse with every step. It tastes like pennies and smoke, and something you don't have a name for. Then fresh air, not much, just a whisper. But enough. You turn a corner and find a vent shaft, open and working. The new inspector, Mr. Graves, a rare visitor from above, installed it last week. Most called it useless. Right now, it's salvation. You and Tommy crouch beneath it, sucking in what little breeze it offers. Slowly, your head clears. You glance. Around, a few others made it. One boy is sobbing, another is lying on his back, eyes closed, lips moving in a silent prayer. Historians still argue whether the widespread use of canaries saved more lives than it endangered. After all, every time the bird panicked, men panicked, but the alternative was worse, going blind into the gas with no warning at all. After 20 minutes, a bell rings from above. It's the all-clear signal. You hesitate. Then a familiar voice echoes down the shaft. It's Spanner. Gas is cleared. Pumps are back. They open the east vent. "You lot alive?" you shout back. "Mostly." It takes another hour for everyone to regroup. 2 boys are missing. One returns, coughing hard, his eyes red as embers. The other never does. Someone starts preparing a chalkboard tally. His name joins the list. No ceremony. Just a tick mark and a sigh. Back at the main shaft, the canary is gone. Dead. You stare at the empty cage for a while. Someone mutters, "We'll get another." You nod. Of course they will. Canary number 32, probably. Maybe 33. You've lost count. Later, in the hollow where the boys gather for lunch, someone tries to make a joke. Least Lucky didn't have to clock in again. The laugh is small, forced, but appreciated. You sit with your bread, your potato, your thoughts. The boy who didn't make it, Jamie, was only a year older than you. He once showed you how to light a lamp with your sleeve pulled down, so you didn't burn your wrist. He had a gap in his front teeth, and liked to hum sea shanties. Now he's just a notch on the board. You cough once, just once, but you pay attention. No black stuff this time. That's something. You head back into the tunnels. Slower now, a little more cautious. The canary's gone, but you're still here. And tomorrow, the birdcage will hold another little feathered sentinel. Bright-eyed, blissfully unaware, just like you were once. It doesn't sound like an explosion. It sounds like thunder being swallowed. You freeze. Your pick is still in your hand, but your fingers have gone numb. Around you, every single miner stops moving. No jokes, no singing, no chewing, just stillness. Then comes the tremor. It ripples through the floor like a ripple in soup. Slow at first, then sharp. Dust begins to drift from the ceiling. Tiny pebbles clink off your helmet. Someone breathes the words you didn't want to hear. Collapse. The roof groans above. It's an ancient, angry sound, like the mine itself has decided it's had enough of being picked at. Then from the next tunnel over comes a scream. It's short, then cut off. You don't wait, you drop the pick, shout back, and start running. Boots slap against stone. Someone trips. You grab his arm and pull him up. The air fills with dust so thick it looks like smoke. You can't see your hand in front of your face. Behind you, timbers snap. It's not a sound you'll ever forget. Like bones cracking under weight too great to bear. You hear a whoomph, followed by a spray of pebbles. A lantern crashes, flares, and fizzles out. You grab the wall and keep low. The others are doing the same, crawling, coughing, shouting names into the black fog. Tommy! Spanner! Where's Alfie? Your own voice joins them. Alfie! No answer. Then you find the edge. The tunnel's gone. Just gone. A wall of rock and shattered timber now fills the corridor where the others were just minutes ago. You slam your fist against it. Alfie! Still nothing. You feel hands on your shoulder. Spanner. Face streaked with soot, eyes wild. He's in there, you say. I know, he replies. We'll dig. And you do. For the next hour, maybe 2, no one counts. You and 6 others take turns picking at the rubble, clearing one rock at a time. Breathing is hard, talking is worse, but you keep going. Someone fetches the rescue crew from above ground. They arrive like silent ghosts, faces masked, tools gleaming. They don't speak to you. They just dig. One man with red whiskers presses an ear to the rock wall. Listen. You do. And there it is, a faint tapping. 3 knocks, then 3 more. He's alive. The relief is a wave. Men sag against the walls, shoulders shaking. Now the digging has urgency. One man uses his bare hands. Another curses through clenched teeth, muttering something about not another funeral this week. A rescue team member passes you a flask. Drink. You sip. It's water, and it tastes like heaven. Minutes pass, maybe hours. Eventually the wall shifts. A crack appears. A voice. Alfie! Then a face, dust-covered, wide-eyed, alive. He stumbles out like a man drunk on daylight, even though you're still far below ground. You laugh and half-tackle him. He winces. Watch the ribs. Broken? Cracked maybe, but I'm breathing. A cheer goes up. It echoes strangely down the shaft. Not everyone was so lucky. 3 boys didn't make it, crushed beneath the fall. You see the list go up later that night, chalked in a single clean line on the board at the mouth of the shaft. No big speeches, just names and silence. Back underground, the collapsed area is sealed off. Too dangerous now. The supervisors say it'll stay that way until a safety review, which means until someone forgets it happened. You walk past the barrier later. The smell of dust still hangs thick. You swear the tunnel breathes, like it's alive, like it's waiting for another chance to collapse. Historians still argue whether the rescue drills in the 1800s were genuinely effective or more for show. Some pits had well-trained teams, others sent in whoever was nearby with strong backs and weak scents. You're not sure what your pit falls under. Probably the second. In the break area, someone says, Alfie owes us a round. Alfie, pale and bandaged, grins. You'll get it after I stop coughing up gravel. The laughter's shaky, but it helps. Later, the inspector shows up. Clean boots, nice waistcoat, hands that have never held a pickaxe. He walks the shaft with a notebook asking questions. How long before the support gave? What kind of timber was used? Any prior warning signs? Spanner just grunts. Rotten beams. We told you. The inspector frowns, makes a note, leaves. No one expects change. You sit in your usual spot, lunch forgotten. Your hands are still trembling. The image of that wall of rubble, of Alfie's missing face, is burned into your brain. Someone sits beside you, an older man, silent most days. Today he speaks. First one's the worst, he says quietly. Collapse? He nods. It never leaves you. You'll hear it in your dreams. You don't reply. Because he's right. That night, back home, you sit at the table while your mother rubs ointment into your knuckles. Your father is silent, reading the paper. Your sister draws something in the dust on the floor. You close your eyes and still see the tunnel falling. Not everyone came out, but you did. You're not sure what that means yet. But you know it'll happen again, because the mind never rests. You wake coughing again. Not the dainty, polite kind you'd hear from someone catching a chill. This is deep, guttural, like your lungs are trying to claw their way out of your chest. And when it finally subsides, you spit into the old tin mug by your bedside. It's black. Not completely, maybe, but close enough. Little flecks of soot float in the phlegm, catching the candlelight like ash in water. You stare at it, then dump it outside, like you've done every morning for the past month. Your mother hears you and shakes her head. "Still that cough?" she asks, trying to sound casual. You nod. "Could be the cold weather," she offers, more to herself than you. "Or the damp. You'll grow out of it." You won't. None of the older boys do. Down in the pit, it's just another shift. But today, you notice it more. The coughs. They echo down the shaft like the mine's got a chorus of old men living in its walls. Some are dry, some wet. Some come with blood. Spanner hacks so hard midway through a haul, he doubles over and curses between breaths. He wipes his mouth with a cloth and then quickly hides it in his pocket. You see the stain, so does he. "Just dust," he mutters. "Sure. Black lung, that's what some call it. Or miner's lung. Technically, it's pneumoconiosis, though no one here says that word. It's what happens when coal dust settles in your lungs and never leaves. Slowly hardens, chokes, destroys. One day, you're a strong lad with a shovel. The next, you're gasping after 2 steps, coughing up blood, and begging the chapel for mercy. There's no cure, just slower shifts and earlier graves. At break, you sit in the hollow with the others. Someone lights a stub of candle and wedges it into the wall. You see half a dozen boys leaning forward, eyes sunken, shoulders hunched, breathing like they've all just run miles uphill. A lad named Freddie, no more than 16, wheezes after a bite of bread. "Don't take much now," he whispers, between coughs. "Feels like breathing through a stocking." "Not even a clean one," someone adds, trying to lighten the mood. A few weak chuckles follow, but no one laughs too hard. It might trigger another fit. You glance at the lantern light and notice the coal dust dancing in it. Tiny motes floating gently, always present. You realise this is what you're breathing every minute. They say wrapping a damp cloth over your mouth helps. You try it once. It soaks through in 10 minutes and makes it even harder to breathe. So you stop. Your father has it too, though he pretends he doesn't. He coughs all night, rattling the bed frame. Sometimes he goes outside so your mum doesn't hear it, but everyone hears it anyway. He used to sing, loud, off-key, proud. Now he only hums, and only on good days. Historians still argue whether mine owners knew just how deadly the dust was. Some claim ignorance, others say they knew, but didn't care. After all, men were cheap, boys were cheaper, and replacements were always waiting. During the afternoon haul, you pass by a side shaft and hear a coughing fit so violent it stops you cold. You peek in and see old Tom leaning against a support beam, lips flecked with red. He sees you watching. "What?" he rasps. "Never seen a man breathing his retirement?" You don't know what to say. He grins, crooked and sad. "Don't worry, lad. You've got a few years before it hits proper. Maybe 4 if you're lucky." You walk away faster than usual. Later, Spanner pulls you aside. "Getting worse, ain't it?" he asks, nodding at your chest. You nod. He hands you a little tin. Inside is lard, mixed with crushed peppermint leaves. "Put it under your nose. Helps. Won't stop it, but it'll make the air feel less like sandpaper." You thank him. He shrugs. "Don't last long, but neither do we." As you smear the mixture under your nose, the mint stings your eyes and clears your nostrils for a minute. It helps. Not much, but enough. Your next cart haul feels slightly easier. Maybe it's the mint. Maybe it's the distraction. Maybe it's the fact that you're starting to get used to the feeling of slowly suffocating. At dinner, your mum puts an extra turnip on your plate. "You need strength," she says, "if you're going to keep coughing like that." You nod, even though food doesn't help lungs. Your father says nothing, just stares into the fire, breathing through his mouth. You catch your sister, trying to imitate him, puffing her cheeks like she's holding invisible coal. You tell her to stop. Later that night, lying on your back, you stare at the ceiling and count your breaths. You keep waiting for one to catch. It does. You cough so hard you sit upright. Your throat burns. Something wet and dark hits the cloth beside you. You hide it under your blanket. You whisper to yourself, just dust, but you don't believe it anymore. The bread runs out on Wednesday, not just at your house, everywhere. No deliveries, no market wagons, no side-of-the-road loaves from the travelling widow who always smelled faintly of onions. Nothing. By Thursday, even the crust ends are gone, and your mother starts boiling cabbage leaves in a pan that's more rust than tin. Your father says nothing at first. Then he folds the newspaper and slaps it down on the table. We strike. 2 words that change everything. You're 12, and your first thought is, no more mine? For a flicker of a second, it sounds like a holiday. A break from the shaft, from the coughing, from the ache that never leaves your shoulders. But then the second thought hits harder. No wages. The strike means no pay, no food, no coal for the fire, and very quickly, no patience from anyone above ground. Your father explains it over stew that tastes like hot water and regret. The colliery owners cut wages again. Something about markets, profits, and efficiency. The usual lies. Now the miners are walking out. Your mum doesn't look thrilled. Walking out's fine, she says, until your children start chewing boot leather. He says nothing, just tightens his jaw and taps his spoon against his tin plate. The next day, the pit is quiet. Spanner is outside the gates with your dad. Your uncle, 3 dozen others. They carry signs. Fair pay for fair work. No more cuts. Someone's even drawn a cartoon of the mine owner with a pig's head and gold coins falling out of his mouth. You snort. He wishes he was that handsome. Your father overhears and chuckles once, then catches himself. There's not much to laugh about today. You and the other boys aren't down the shaft anymore, but you're not free. The house is colder. The meals are smaller. By the second week, your mother's traded her shawl for flour. You don't ask how she got the deal. You just eat the biscuits and don't complain about the grit. Your little sister starts asking when the holiday is over. You tell her soon, you lie. In town, the shopkeepers close early. Some won't sell to miners' families anymore, afraid of being seen as sympathisers. You walk past a bakery and watch fresh loaves steam in the window. A man inside sees you, then pulls the curtain shut. The message is clear. No money, no bread. The church gives out porridge on Sundays. You stand in line behind 30 others, tin bowl in hand, trying not to look too eager. The priest offers a blessing with every scoop. By the 4th week, he skips the blessing. The line's too long. Back at home, your dad's voice starts changing. First it was fire. We fight for fairness. Then it turned to stone. We stand together. Now it's dust. We'll last as long as we can. You hear the crack in it. You all do. Historians still argue whether strikes in the 1800s were truly effective, or whether they simply gave mine owners an excuse to replace troublemakers. Some say they were the birth of modern labour rights. Others say they were slow, painful suicides. In your belly, the answer feels obvious. One evening, a man comes by. Slick hair, nice coat, clipboard. He's from management. Offers to let the boys back in. Quietly, he says. No trouble, just work. A few hours a day, maybe a little food in return. Your mum stares at you when he says it. Not with pressure, just with a look that says, we're slipping. But your father says no. Not with rage, with pride. No scabs in this house. The man tips his hat. Leaves. Later that night, your stomach growls so loud it wakes you. You lie still, trying to pretend you're dreaming. Then you hear your dad coughing into the basin, hacking like a tree being chopped down in slow motion. You think of the mine, of how awful it is, and how right now you'd give anything just to smell that sour tunnel air again, because it would mean food was on the table. On the 29th day, someone breaks. One of the men, not your dad, but someone's father. He crosses the picket line early in the morning, head low, hat pulled down. The next day, 3 more do the same. Spanner spits in the dirt when he sees them. By week 5, the strike is bleeding out. Quietly, shamefully. Your dad still refuses. He gets thinner. You do too. Then on a Saturday morning, the notice goes up. Wages reinstated. Some reductions apply. Mines reopen Monday. The celebration is muted. No cheers, no beer, just a weary kind of relief. Your mother finally smiles again. A little. Your father doesn't. He just nods once and says, "Back to it then." Monday morning, you walk back to the shaft. The pit wheel is turning again. The carts are back. The soot's in the air. The boys you worked beside are all there. A little leaner, a little quieter. "Nice holiday," one mutters. You smirk. "Best I've ever starved through." And when the cage lowers you into the earth, you feel it all settle again. The air, the dust, the weight. But this time, there's something else. A kind of ember in your chest, because you saw what happened when men said no. And even though it nearly broke you, even though you'll pay for it with your ribs and your teeth and your lungs, you were part of something. Even if it only lasted a month, even if it only won you crusts, you still said no. And that matters. Sunday finally arrives like a long-lost cousin who shows up late, smells like cabbage and leaves early. It's your one day off the mine each week, and you'd think that means rest, but no. Sundays are a mix of ritual, scrubbing, and pretending everything's fine. Your mum is up before anyone, already boiling water over the fire. The metal pot groans like it resents its job, and the steam fills the room with damp heat. She yells your name before the sun even touches the hills. "Get up! You're filthy and the Lord won't like it." You groan. Your body begs for another hour, another anything, but there's no use arguing with your mother and her ladle. You rise, next comes the bath. Not a personal one, a shared tin tub in the centre of the room, filled with the same water for everyone. You go third, after your younger siblings and before your father. By then the water is mostly dark grey, with little coal specks floating like ash flakes. You scrub fast, she scrubs faster. "You want the preacher thinking we raise rats," she says, scrubbing your ear hard enough to remove bone. You smell like lye and soap by the time she's finished. Your scalp burns, your face stings. But hey, at least you're not entirely black anymore. Then comes the Sunday best. Your shirt's been patched 3 times. Your trousers are slightly too short, revealing ankles permanently stained by coal dust. But the buttons hold, and the collar folds flat, so it counts. The chapel bell rings from across the village. You trudge there with your family, every step reminding your muscles that they're not done hurting. Your boots are stiff, and your cough is already tickling your throat again. But the fresh air feels different, clean. The chapel is small, plain, wooden, and smells like wax and gilt. You sit on a hard bench next to your father, trying not to fidget. The preacher begins with thunder and brimstone as always. The Lord sees all beneath the earth. He tests the righteous in darkness. You resist the urge to mutter, "Well, he must really love miners." The hymns come next. You mumble through the verses. Your mother sings with her eyes closed, a little off-key, but with all the strength of someone still trying to believe the sky listens. Then comes the part you hate, when the preacher starts listing names. Deaths, accidents, injuries. It's like a second obituary, and you recognise most of them. Brother Latham, back broken. Boy Adams, gas in the west seam. Old Tom, still coughing blood. Each name lands like a pickaxe in your gut. After the sermon, there's tea in the hall. Weak, warm, mostly water. But the biscuits are real, and your sister manages to sneak too. The adults talk politics. The strike comes up. Your father nods along, but stays quiet. You overhear someone muttering, "The mine took my brother, and they still expect me to kneel on Sundays. No one answers. After chapel, it's home again, but not to relax. Sundays are also for laundry, which in your house means boiling clothes in an iron pot and beating them with a wooden paddle, like you're punishing them for their sins. Your mother handles most of it, arms red and raw from years of steam and soap. You help hang the damp clothes out back, where they catch the weak sun like flags of surrender. But eventually, the adults drift. They take naps, or read, or stare quietly at walls. That's when the other Sunday ritual begins. You sneak out, around the side of the house, down the lane, past the abandoned rail car, and into the woods behind old Mrs. Higgins's fence. You're not alone. Spanner's there, so's Alfie, even Freddie, still coughing but carrying a flask. This is the backroom pub. Not a real one, of course, but the abandoned tools shed hidden among trees, where a few boys gather on Sunday afternoons, with whatever they can scrounge. Stale bread, stolen tobacco, and if someone's lucky, a splash of gin. Found it in my dad's cabinet, Alfie says, holding up the bottle proudly. No wonder he's been yelling louder, someone mutters. You sit on overturned buckets, pass the flask around, and exhale like miners twice your age. Here the rules soften. The air smells of wood, not soot. You don't talk about the mine unless you want to. No one brings up names from the board. There's just laughter, real laughter, laced with coughs and sharp jokes. Think we'll ever work above ground, someone asks. Silence. Then Spanner grins. Sure, when they start mining sky. You snort. Freddie leans back and sighs. My brother went to London, works in a shop, sells shoes. Does he still have all his toes? Far as I know. Luxury, someone mutters. You sit there, until the sun starts to dip, casting orange across the trees. Then the group breaks, one by one, until it's just you and Alfie left. He tosses you a wrapped paper. Cheese, he says, from my mum. Don't ask how she got it. You open it and nearly cry. It's real, crumbly, sharp. A taste you forgot existed. You split it in half and hand him the bigger piece. He doesn't argue. When you get home, your mother doesn't ask where you were. She just looks at you, sees the quiet in your face, and lets it be. That night, you lie in bed, listening to the wind in the trees, not the creak of the shaft. And for a few hours you sleep without dreaming of collapse. Because on Sunday, you remembered what it was like to just be a boy. Not a pitman, not a body, just a boy. She doesn't say much, your mother, never has. Words for her are like flour. You use only what you must, or you run out too soon. She's at the hearth again this morning, elbows deep in suds, rubbing a shirt on the washboard, like it insulted her in a past life. The steam fogs the cracked window pane, curls her hair at the edges, and glistens off the raw skin of her knuckles. You watch her hands as she works, always the hands. They're not gentle anymore, not like they used to be when she held your sister's head and sang lullabies in the evenings. Now they're rough, red, constantly moving, scrubbing, cooking, folding, stitching. A miner's wife doesn't get time for stillness. She catches you watching. Don't just sit there like a lump, she says, not unkindly. Get the kindling in. You move without arguing. Because that's how it goes. In your house, your father may work the mine, but your mother holds everything else together with sheer stubbornness and a never-ending list of things that need doing. Laundry, mostly. Not just yours, but the neighbours' too. She earns a few pence a week that way, scrubbing black-streaked trousers and shirts until her fingers go numb. It's the kind of job no one praises, just expects. You bring in the firewood, drop it near the hearth, and notice the quiet. Your little sister isn't humming. She's not here. The blanket pile in the corner sits too still. Your mother sees you looking. She's at the grave, she says. Took flowers. Ah, today's the anniversary. You swallow. Say nothing. You were barely 8 when the baby died. The third child. Born in the middle of winter during a coal shortage. No warmth, no milk, no help. You remember her tiny face, her fists like crumpled paper, and how cold she felt when you touched her cheek that morning. Your mother hasn't sung since. She used to have a voice that could make stew taste better, make the shadows seem less thick. On Sundays, she'd hum while kneading dough, sometimes tapping a foot, like she had a secret rhythm. Not anymore. Now she just scrubs. A neighbour knocks. Mrs. Kilpatrick, who lives 2 doors down with 6 sons and 1 daughter who refuses to speak. She hands over a bundle of stained linens with a polite nod, then leaves. No chatter, no gossip. Everyone's too tired. Your mother sets to work immediately. You sit by the window and stare out at the soot-grey rooftops. They all look the same, slate and sadness, lined up like tired teeth. Eventually, you speak. Did you ever want to leave? She pauses mid-scrub, doesn't look at you. I did once, she says. When? When I was your sister's age. Thought I'd marry a sailor, travel the world, eat fruit I couldn't pronounce. What's happened? I married your father instead. He had strong hands. You nod. It's not regret in her voice, it's just fact. She doesn't hate him. He works hard, brings home what little he can, and never raises a hand. But life wore both of them down like river stones. You can see it in the way they sit in silence each night, not because there's nothing to say, but because everything's already been said. She changes the water in the basin. You offer to help. She raises an eyebrow, surprised, but nods. You plunge your hands into the water. It's hot enough to scald, and the soap stings the cuts on your knuckles. Still, you scrub. Shirt after shirt, sock after sock, she watches you out of the corner of her eye. You're not bad at it, she says. I've had practice. My pants don't wash themselves. She chuckles. The sound is brief, brittle but real. You glance around the room. Your father's out, probably visiting Spanner to talk about the shaft. Your sister's still gone. It's just you two. Do you miss singing? You ask. She doesn't answer right away. Then softly, I miss wanting to sing. You nod. You keep scrubbing. She wipes her hands on her apron and stands up. Moves to the cupboard. After a moment, she pulls out a little tin box. You recognise it. Used to be your baby sister's. Still has the ribbon on the lid. She opens it. Inside a bit of lace, a lock of hair, a button, and a dried out rose. She was so quiet, your mum says. Even when she cried, it was like she was apologising. You don't trust your voice enough to answer. She closes the lid. Someday, she says, I want your sister to leave this place. Go somewhere with books, learn something. You nod. What about me? She gives you a long look. Her eyes are the same grey as the sky outside. You'll do what you have to, like your father, like me. You don't argue. Later she puts on her shawl and leaves to deliver the clean laundry. You finish rinsing the last shirt and hang it by the fire. The house is quiet. You sit by the window again, watching the sky try to remember what colour it used to be. And then very softly you hum. A broken little tune. Off key. Just a few notes. You don't even realise you're doing it until your sister returns and looks at you in surprise. Were you singing? You shake your head. No, she grins. Sounded like it. You grin back. On your way to the shaft the next morning, you pass the schoolhouse. It sits at the edge of town like it doesn't want to be noticed. Just a squat brick building with mismatched windows and a roof that sheds more tiles than it keeps. But the door is wide open, and light spills from inside like some kind of secret you're not allowed to know. You slow down. Through the cracked glass you catch a glimpse. Wooden desks, clean chalkboards, and a row of neat coats on hooks. The smell of ink and paper floats faintly on the air. Something so strange and clean, it actually stops your breath for a second. Then the bell rings. A stream of children flood through the yard. They're clean, cleaner than you've been in months. Their faces aren't pinched, their hands aren't black, and not one of them is limping. One boy is even laughing. You recognise a few. There's Henry Peake, the grocer's son, Emily Morehouse, whose father owns the dry goods shop, and that other lad, William, who always has butter on his bread. The kind of boys who get second helpings and nicknames embroidered into their mittens. You linger a bit longer. A tall man in a coat that actually fits walks out with a stack of books under his arm. Mr. Alton, the schoolmaster. You've never spoken to him, but you know who he is? Everyone does. He's got clean fingernails and a voice that can fill a chapel. He spots you, raises an eyebrow. You look away fast and keep walking, because you're not allowed in there. Not because you've done anything wrong, but because you're needed somewhere else. Back when you were 6, your mum told you, "School's for lads who can afford shoes and afternoons." We've got neither. And that was that. You're not bitter, not really. Just curious. You've heard about what they do in there. Writing, mostly. Reading, numbers. Sometimes they even draw maps of places far away. Places where coal doesn't blacken your breath and work doesn't start before your teeth come in. You once asked your dad if he could read. He looked at you and said, "I can read a pay slip and a death notice. That's all a miner needs." So you learned other things instead. How to judge the weight of a coal cart by the sound of its wheels. How to light a candle in high gas without causing a flash. How to tell when a support beam is just pretending to be stable. But still, sometimes you think about letters, what they look like, how they form words, what it feels like to open a book and actually understand what it's saying. Alfie once found a torn page from a newspaper lining a coal cart. He brought it to the hollow, like it was treasure. "We found a riddle," he announced. "See?" You all gathered around while he read it, slowly, stumbling over the words. The ink was smeared, but the riddle stuck with you. "I speak without a mouth, and hear without ears. I have no body, but I come alive with wind." No one knew the answer. Later, you asked your mum. She thought for a while, then said, "An echo, I think." You nodded like you knew what that meant. Historians still argue whether basic literacy was out of reach for working-class children because of neglect or design. Laws were passed, sure. The 1833 Factory Act made it mandatory for children working in factories to receive some education. But mines? Different beast entirely. You're not sure any inspector ever came down your shaft with a textbook. One boy in your pit, David, taught himself the alphabet by copying shop signs onto scraps of coal with a stick. He now writes short letters for miners who want to send words home but don't know how. You paid him once in half a biscuit to write, "I miss you," for your uncle in the north. He added, "very much" at the end for free. You never forgot that. During a slow shift that afternoon, Spanner catches you staring off down a tunnel, lips moving. "What are you mumbling?" "Just practicing letters," you admit. He chuckles. "What for? The mine don't care how well you spell your own name." You shrug. "Maybe I do." He nods once, slowly. "Good. Just don't try writing poetry. That's how madness starts." You smile. Back at home, you mention the school to your mum, cautiously. "Could I ever go?" you ask. She stops stirring the pot. "You want to leave the mine?" "Number, I mean, just to learn." She considers this, really considers it. Then she sighs. "If we could spare you a day, I'd let you, but we can't." You nod. You knew that. She walks over and hands you a scrap of old paper. "Here," she says. "You can use the back." You flip it over. It's an old receipt from the coal yard. On the blank side, you draw a shaky letter A, then B, then C. Your sister watches from across the room, eyes wide. "Can you teach me?" You pause, then nod. Because even if you never walk through that schoolhouse door, maybe she can. Maybe one of you will. And that's enough to keep going. You hear the name Lord Shaftesbury before you ever see his face, mostly from whispers in the hollow and the stray grumbles of older miners during break. Another London lord poking his nose down here. Talks a lot. We'll see if he does anything. He'll be gone the second his shoes touch coal. But it turns out he's not just another suit. He's one of the few people with influence who actually seems to care what happens down here, beneath the clean streets and silk waistcoats of Parliament. And today, rumour has it, he's sent someone to your mine. You're halfway through a morning shift, hauling half-filled rollies along a sagging rail, when word spreads, inspector's coming. The entire pit buzzes with attention you've never felt before. Even Spanner wipes the coal smears off his face with a damp rag. Twice. You don't know what to expect. Maybe a man in fine boots who'll peek into a shaft, write some notes, and vanish back to the city where tea is hot and chimneys are decorative. But when the inspector arrives, he's muddy. That's the first surprise. His boots are covered in muck. His sleeves are rolled up, and he actually goes down the shaft without fainting or flinching. He asks questions too, real ones. How many hours do the boys work? Do they get breaks? How often do you rotate the ponies? You watch him scribble into a leather-bound notebook, one eyebrow raised, eyes flicking from lanterns to beams to faces. He pauses near the stable and stares at Dolly, your favourite pit pony. She's asleep on her feet again, swaying slightly, her mane tangled with cobwebs. Is this animal ever brought to surface? He asks. Spanner, surprisingly cautious for once, replies, No, sir. Costs too much to hoist her up each day. The inspector doesn't respond. Just writes. You can't help but lean over and whisper to Alfie. Think he'll do anything? Alfie shrugs. Depends whether his ink dries before we starve. A few days later, they post a new sign outside the shaft entrance. No boy under 10 to be employed in mines. Mines and Collieries Act, 1842. You're 12 now, so it doesn't help you, but you stare at the notice anyway, letting the weight of those words settle in. 10. Most lads start earlier than that, 8, sometimes 7, crawling as trappers in darkness before they even lose their baby teeth. Some of your shift mates had their first birthdays underground. You overhear your father grumbling about the law that night. Not because he disagrees, he's just not sure how they'll manage without the wages from the younger boys. They cut hours but don't raise pay, he mutters. What are we supposed to do? Breathe good intentions? Still, something changes, slowly. Over the next few weeks, a few new faces appear. Reformers, they're called. Middle-class men and women from cities who come to interview families, inspect the pit head, and occasionally speak to the owners. You hear rumours of unions too. Not yet in your pit, but in nearby towns. Groups of workers organising for better conditions. More pay, shorter shifts, real protections. One day, Alfie pulls you aside with a grin. Guess what? What? My dad joined a union chapter in Bolton. Says they're trying to send a letter to Parliament. Will they read it? Doubt it, but they'll know we're angry. You nod. That's something. Then comes the accident. You're working near the lower level when you hear the snap. Not the wood cracking of a collapsing beam. This is different. Sharper, metal. You spin just in time to see a boy, Daniel, screaming. He's on the ground, leg twisted beneath a broken rail. The corf he was guiding went off track and rolled straight over his ankle. You run. Others do too. Spanner bellows for a stretcher. Someone grabs a lantern. The air smells like blood and iron and dust, and Daniel's voice is fading into sobs. They lift him onto a board, tie his leg tight with a belt, and carry him up the shaft. You climb with them. You're not on the rescue team, but something in you won't let go. At the top, you watch the foreman shake his head. Not fixable, he mutters. Won't be back down. Just like that, Daniel's a miner no more. He's 14. Later, you visit him at home. His leg is bound in splints. His eyes are dull. He tries to smile when you enter. Still got one good leg, he says. Might become a messenger boy. Can you read? Not yet. You offer him the old alphabet scrap your mother gave you. He takes it like it's made of gold. The next time the inspector visits, someone mentions Daniel. Mentions the cart, the rail, the leg. The man writes it down, then walks over to you. You were there? You nod. He asks a few questions, not many. Then he jots something down, and, just before leaving, says, "Thank you for not walking away." You stare after him as he disappears down the lane, his notebook tucked under his arm. Historians still argue whether these early reforms were too little, too late, or the foundation of real change. They didn't stop the mine from taking lives, they didn't make it safe, but they did make it known. People were looking, not enough, but more than yesterday. That night, your mother hands you another scrap of paper. This one has numbers on it. Try these next, she says. You trace them with your finger, 1 to 10. Maybe it'll never get better, but maybe you can learn to count the changes. The mind doesn't care what season it is. Above ground the world changes, leaves fall, snow comes, lambs are born. But down here, always the same, black, damp, tight. Yet your body knows. You feel the difference in your bones. You live the difference. And winter? Winter is the cruelest of all. It starts with your boots. You wake one morning and slide your feet into them, only to find they're stiff as wood and twice as cold. You bang them on the floor to soften the leather, and a sheet of ice cracks off the sole like dried paint. You trudge to the pit in the dark. Not that it matters. Sunrise and shaft light are indistinguishable in your world, and find the hoist ropes glazed in frost. Everything creaks louder in the cold. Metal groans, wood shatters at the touch, even voices sound brittle. The descent is worse than usual. You clutch the rope tighter than ever. If your hands weren't already red and chapped, they will be by the time you hit bottom. You wish you could wear gloves, but they'd never last a shift. The cold bites first, the damp follows. Down below, the tunnels are wet year-round, but winter means puddles turn to slush. Your breath fogs in front of you, and condensation drips constantly from the roof. It's like working inside a lung that never learned to breathe properly. Your pick sticks to your hand. Your lamp flickers with every gust. Your cough, which never quite left, returns in full chorus. Everyone's does, and still you work. One boy, Tommy, slips on a frozen rail and cracks his head. Blood in the cold looks darker, almost black. They drag him to the shaft. He won't be back for a week, maybe more. Lucky git, someone mutters, not entirely joking. But when summer comes, don't think it gets easier. Oh no, summer bakes the tunnels. Down below, there's no breeze, no relief, just heat. It rises from the floor, clings to the walls, steams off your back. You sweat so hard it feels like you're melting. Your shirt plastered to your skin within 10 minutes of starting. And it's not just sweat, it's the air. It gets thick, slow, hard to move through. You breathe it in and feel like you're swallowing porridge. The coal dust hangs heavier, clinging to every surface. Your mouth goes dry. Your tongue tastes like iron. You drink from your tin cup, but the water's warm, and halfway through the shift, you're licking the condensation off the shaft walls like a stray dog. Spanner collapses once in July. Just drops, face first into a pile of loose shale. Takes 3 men to carry him up the shaft, each of them soaked in their own sweat before they even reach daylight. When he comes back 3 days later, he tells you he saw stars underground. Actual stars, he says. Swear I heard music. Alfie says he must have hit his head. No, Spanner replies. That came after. One summer, a fire breaks out near the surface level storage sheds. Sparks from a boiler, caught in dry grass. You're underground at the time, and the smoke chokes its way down into the shaft within minutes. It's not thick, not enough to blind you, but it brings panic. Everyone knows that smoke underground can mean one thing. No way out. The hoist becomes a frenzy of motion. Boys clamber over each other. The supervisor yells until his voice breaks. You manage to get in a lift with 3 others, crushed so tight you feel their ribs pressing into yours. When you reach the top, the air burns your throat. But it's air. Others aren't so lucky. Some faint. One lad, barely 10, has to be slapped awake, then carried home, over a shoulder, like a sack of coal. You still smell smoke 2 days later, even though the fire's long out. Historians still argue which season was worse for miners, winter with its frostbitten fingers and frozen ropes, or summer with its gas blooms and suffocating heat. You think they're both terrible in different dialects. There's no good weather underground, just degrees of misery. One day in spring, briefly your favourite, You come across a strange thing in the lower seam. It's a flower, tiny, pale, growing from a crack in the stone. You kneel beside it and blink, unsure if it's real or just one of the mind's little tricks. But no, it's real. Somehow, a seed made its way down, carried in on someone's boot maybe, and clung to the wet wall long enough to bloom. Alfie sees it too. Think it'll last? You shake your head. Not down here. Still, he says, better try than not. You don't tell anyone else. It's your little secret. A ridiculous thing in a place like this. A soft rebellion. You visit it every day for a week. Then one morning it's gone. Someone scraped it away. Maybe by accident, maybe not. You stare at the blank wall, the wet stone. Then you pick up your shovel. Because even beauty's shift ends eventually. You keep a tally. Not of coal loads. Not of hours worked. Not even of the days since the strike. You keep a tally of deaths. It's not written down. There's no page long enough for that. It's in your head, etched like the shaft lines on your palms. Each time someone doesn't come back up, a notch carves itself into your memory. Not as a number, as a face. You're up to 34. And today might be 35. It starts with a thud, deep, dull, heavy. Not an explosion, not a beam cracking, just that strange something sound that makes everyone stop what they're doing. Then silence. Then shouting. You drop your tools and run toward the sound, along with a half-dozen others. Your boots skid on the slick tunnel floor. The walls seem to press in closer, the flicker of lamps casting shadows like clawed hands. You turn the corner and see him. Wells, an older lad, maybe 17. He's not moving. The cart is tipped, one wheel snapped. The axle has him pinned. His chest heaves in short, sharp bursts. His eyes flutter. "Don't move him!" Spanner shouts, arriving seconds later. "He's still breathing!" You and Alfie drop to your knees, grabbing the edge of the cart. It's heavy, too heavy, but you try anyway. Muscles strain, feet slip. You push until your teeth grind, until your knees feel like they'll split. Then with a groan, the cart shifts. Just enough. Spanner slides in and yanks Wells out. He gasps, wheezes once, then blacks out. You think he's gone, but no. He stirs, coughs, groans, still alive, for now. You help carry him to the shaft, his arm dangling, foot twisted in a direction feet aren't supposed to twist. You can't tell if he's conscious. The blood soaking through his shirt is answer enough. They take him up. You don't follow. Just sit there, catching your breath. Another lad, new, maybe 10, sits beside you, pale as a ghost. "Does this happen often?" he whispers. You nod. "Sometimes twice in 1 week." His eyes widen. You lean back against the wall and stare at the roof of the tunnel. There's a patch up there where the coal shimmers faintly. You don't know if it's damp or just catching the light weirdly, but it almost looks like stars. The kind you've never really seen. Your tally grows. After the shift, you and a few others gather at the hollow, quiet. No harmonica, no jokes. Just the thrum of your own hearts trying to beat away the memory of Wells' face. Then Spanner speaks. "Saw a man once crushed like that," he says. "Didn't make it." Alfie mutters. "Wells might still." Spanner nods. "Maybe, but if he don't, we remember him." Someone picks up a lump of coal and scratches a small mark into the wall of the hollow. You recognise the shape, one of many. A little notch, a name without letters. There are dozens now. Tiny carvings, barely visible, unless the lamp hits them just right. But you know what they mean. You even made a few yourself. Some boys say it's bad luck to count the dead. That it invites the mind to come looking for you next. But you have to count them. Someone has to, because if you don't, who will? Historians still debate the actual death tolls of British coal mines in the 1800s. The official records list numbers, but they never catch the quiet ones. The boys buried without names, the ones who slipped and drowned, the ones who coughed their lungs out at 13 and were never recorded as anything more than sickly. You remember them? The boy who saved his lunch for his sister, The one who always hummed when he was scared. The one who swore he saw a fairy in the vent shaft. You even remember the lad who got his foot stuck in the rail and cried so hard he threw up. None of them came back. Your mother says nothing about death. She just packs your lunch each morning, hands it to you, and touches your cheek for half a second. That's her insurance policy, her prayer, her ritual. Your father says even less. Once, when you asked him how he keeps going after burying 2 of his brothers and his own son, he said, "What else is there to do?" You didn't answer. Because there isn't anything else, not really. You wake up, you work, you come home, if you're lucky, and if you're not, someone else makes a notch. That night, you lie in bed and count backward. Not from numbers, from names, Wells, Jamie, old Thomas David, the leg, still alive, but changed. Matty, Sam. You drift off somewhere between them, breath shallow, chest tight, and when you wake the next morning, your first thought isn't of breakfast or boots. It's 35 yet? Or did Wells survive? You don't know, but the tally waits. You step out of the pit at shift's end and blink into the daylight. It still surprises you. That moment when the grey haze of the mine gives way to the sky, wide and strange and full of colour you forgot existed. Today it's a dull blue, streaked with clouds like smoke trails. You squint like a mole that's spent too long underground. As you walk through town, people glance at you the same way they always do, with a mix of pity and politeness. Like you're something slightly unpleasant they're too polite to look at directly. Coal dust still coats your face, your boots, your breath. No amount of scrubbing ever gets it all off. You leave faint grey smears wherever you go, on doorknobs, on handrails, on the edge of your soup bowl. But despite that, you hear the same words whispered again and again. Hard-working, respectable, salt of the earth. It's the town's favourite word for miners. Respectable. You're not quite sure what it means anymore, because if being respectable means digging your way through rock for 12 hours a day, coughing yourself awake at night, and swallowing bread dusted with coal flakes, then sure, you're practically a nobleman. Still there's pride in it. Strange, brittle pride. At the chapel, the preacher speaks about men of virtue and sacrifice, and you know who he means. He means your father. He means Spanner. He means every man who's come up coughing and gone back down the next morning. There's a little statue in town, some war hero from a long-forgotten campaign. The kids play on it. The birds relieve themselves on it. But no one's ever built a monument to a miner. Not yet, anyway. But in the pubs, that's where the real stories live. You're still too young to enter officially, but sometimes Spanner sneaks you in through the back door after a long shift. You sit near the stove with Alfie and sip warm ale, just enough to make your cheeks burn, while the old-timers talk. And that's when you hear it, the legends, like the story of Big John from Durham, who dug his way out of a cave-in with a spoon. Or Mags Lacey, the only woman ever allowed to work a full shift underground, because no one dared tell her otherwise. Or the man who once carried a collapsed beam on his back, so 2 boys could crawl out alive. That man has a plaque on a wall somewhere. Not a statue, just a plaque. But it's something. Your dad's name isn't on a plaque, but he's the kind of man people nod to when he passes. Even the pub owner stands a bit straighter when your father walks in. He never says much, just orders his drink and listens. But when he talks, people lean in. One night, he tells a story you've never heard before about the time he was 17 and rescued a boy from a gas pocket. No one had ever mentioned it, not even your mum. Someone claps him on the back. Should have given you a medal. Your dad just shrugs. Medals don't help when your boots fall apart. That's respect, you think. Not flashy, not loud, just earned. Historians still argue whether 19th century miners were viewed as heroes or victims. The truth? They were both. To the owners, you're just numbers. To the town, you're legends in the making. Men who stare death in the face and then go home to eat stew in silence. You know there's more to life than coal. You've tasted it in the form of letters on scraps of paper. in the whisper of books through schoolhouse windows, in your mother's brief laugh, and your sister's impossible dreams. But coal defines you. One afternoon, you helped the blacksmith with deliveries. Not your usual shift, but he needed a runner, and your boots still had soles. He hands you a parcel for a house near the edge of town. You walk up the lane and realise these are the people who call you respectable. White fences, flower boxes, 2 stories of fresh paint and polished boots lined neatly by the door. The lady who answers the knock smiles. "You're the miner boy, aren't you?" You nod. She hands you a copper coin and says, "Thank you for your hard work. We'd freeze without you." You pocket the coin, smile back and walk away. And that's when it hits you. They respect you. They need you. But they'll never be you. They don't see the blisters or the tally of the dead or the soot ground into your gums. They don't smell the burned rope and scorched gas when they close their eyes at night. They just see a strong back and a bowed head. Still, it's something. You pass the bakery on the way home. The girl there waves. You wave back. You once gave her brother your only potato because he'd fainted in the shaft. Respectable. You walk past the chapel, where the bells toll not for sermons, but for funerals. 4 times this week. One of them was your cousin. Respectable. You finally reach home, where your sister runs out to hug your waist and your mother wipes your face with a damp cloth. "You look like you bathed in the fireplace," she says. You grin. "Only up to my neck." Your father's by the hearth, boot propped up, coughing quietly into a handkerchief. He gives you a look, not a smile, just a nod. Respectable. You lie down that night with the ache of 1,000 pick swings in your shoulders, but there's a small warmth beneath it. You may not own anything, but people see you, even if only from the outside. And in this world, that's not nothing. The rope pulls tight for what you don't yet know will be the last time. It's just another shift, or so it seems. You lace your boots, which are barely more than stitched memories at this point, and pocket the half-loaf your mother saved from last night. You don't speak much over breakfast. No one does. Your father's already coughing, and your sister's feeding a doll made from leftover cloth and a cork stopper. You kiss her forehead, like always. You nod to your mum. She presses a bit of salt into your hand. "For luck," she says. Just like every other day. You walk to the pit. The air is cool. Still, too still. The wheel turns. You descend. It's slower today. Or maybe you just notice the sound more. The familiar creak, the squeal of the pulley, the low grumble of the earth swallowing you whole. You land with a soft thump, knees absorbing the drop. The tunnel yawns in front of you. Your lamp sputters for a second, then catches. Your breath already feels tight. "South face today," Spanner mutters, brushing past you. "Carts are behind." You nod. Head there. Same bend, same puddle, same rusted bolt that always snags your sleeve. You pass Dolly. She twitches her ears and snorts. She's restless. You give her a pat and a whisper. She doesn't settle. The work begins. Pick, haul, drag, stack. You do it all. You're good at it even. Quick, strong. You joke with Alfie about his singing, off-key as ever. You see Spanner leaning into the rock wall like he's listening for secrets. Then something shifts. Not a sound. A sensation. The air stills again. Too suddenly. Then the lamps flicker. Yours sputters once, twice. The mine exhales, deep, rattling, ancient. And then it comes. A blast, a real one. Not a cave-in. Not gas. This is something worse. It roars up from the lower shaft like fire given lungs. You don't see it. You feel it, like the entire tunnel is shuddering. A wall of pressure slams your ears. Lights vanish. Someone screams. You're on the ground before you even know you've fallen. Dust swirls. Heat chokes. Your shoulder's bleeding. You don't remember how. You shout for Alfie. No answer. You crawl toward where he was, calling again. Silence. A boy stumbles past, face black with soot and eyes too wide to focus. Another lies still. You reach Alfie finally. Half buried, arm twisted. He's breathing, Barely. You drag him clear. The roof groans again. This one's final. Timbers snap like matchsticks. Rock crashes down. A tunnel behind you seals forever with a thunderclap that shakes your ribs. You don't scream. You can't. Your lungs refuse. Then, darkness. Not candle dark, not tunnel dark, final dark, and silence. And you don't remember being pulled up, but later they say Spanner carried you. His ribs cracked. He never worked again. Alfie lost a leg. 3 boys died. One was 14. Wells too, the one you carried weeks ago. Gone. You spend the next week in bed. Your mother crushes mint and lard again. Rubs it on your chest. Your sister reads out loud from the back of a sugar tin. You pretend you're listening, but all you can hear is the mind breathing. When you're strong enough to walk, you go back. Not to work, to say goodbye. The south shaft is sealed now. Boards nailed over the mouth. Flowers tucked into cracks. Bits of coal with names etched in chalk. Someone scratched a message across the top beam. They lit the world, and it burned them. You sit nearby and place a small stone. Then you do something stupid. You look up at the sky. It's late afternoon. The sun's still out. There's a hawk circling. Clouds like cotton stretch across the blue. You stare until your neck hurts, and then you feel it. Something gentle. A breeze. No soot in it. No ash. Just air. Real air. You close your eyes. You never thought it would end like this. Not quiet. Not peaceful. Not out here. But it has. Your body still aches. Your lungs still rattle. But your shift is over. And the world keeps turning. Only now you're above it. The mine is behind you now. Let it fade. Let the sound of the pickaxe tapping against stone dissolve into the stillness around you. The coughs, the shouts, the rumble of carts, all of it drifts backward, away, like a distant train. Your breath softens, your fingers uncoil, the coal dust in your lungs becomes nothing more than mist on a cool morning. You feel the earth exhale, not with weight, but with quiet, with release. You're not crawling anymore, you're floating. The shaft grows smaller beneath you, its walls no longer pressing in, but falling away, letting the air stretch out, letting the dark turn to twilight, letting the sky wrap around your shoulders, like a warm blanket. You're not counting tally marks now, no names, no numbers, just stars, just peace. And for once, the world above feels like it belongs to you. Breathe in, feel your chest rise like a coal cart lifted to light. Breathe out, let go. Let the shift end, let the dream begin. Sleep well, miner, you've earned it. Sweet dreams.